You talk too much about what you're going to do and not enough time actually doing it. Every time you announce your plans to someone, you get a little hit of satisfaction from their reaction. You feel the warmth of their encouragement or the validation of their interest. And that feeling tricks your brain into thinking you've already accomplished something. But you haven't. You just traded your future success for a present moment of cheap approval. The most dangerous thing you can do with a goal is to talk about it before you've earned the right. Because words are easy. Plans are easy. Intentions mean nothing without execution. And every minute you spend explaining your vision to people who aren't even in the arena with you is a minute you're not spending building that vision into reality. This is about learning the power of silence. Not the silence of secrecy or shame, but the silence of focus. The silence of someone who is too busy creating to stop and perform. The silence of a person who understands that the world doesn't reward announcements. It rewards results. You need to disappear from the noise and reappear with evidence. You need to stop broadcasting your journey and start walking in the shadows where real work gets done. I'm going to show you why your need to share is killing your momentum. I'm going to show you how silence becomes a weapon that sharpens your focus and protects your energy. And I'm going to show you how to build something so undeniable that when you finally speak, people have no choice but to listen. But first, you have to close your mouth. You have to stop performing your potential and start proving it. Are you ready to go silent? Are you ready to disappear into your work until the work speaks louder than any words you could say? Then let's begin. No more talk. No more announcements. Just a quiet, relentless march toward becoming someone that results can vouch for. Chapter 1. Stop leaking your power through your mouth. Every time you tell someone about your big plan, you're bleeding out the very energy you need to execute that plan. There's a psychological phenomenon that happens when you share your goals before you've made progress on them. Your brain receives a reward. It gets a dose of dopamine from the social recognition. And that dopamine hit satisfies the craving that should have been driving you to do the actual work. You walk away from that conversation feeling good about yourself. You feel like you've taken a step forward, but you haven't moved an inch. You've just tricked your nervous system into thinking the goal is closer than it is. This is why so many people are full of ideas, but empty of results. They've been feeding their ego with words instead of feeding their future with action. Think about the last time you got excited about a new project or goal. You probably told your friends about it. You probably posted about it. You might have even planned out loud how amazing it was going to be. And then what happened? The excitement faded. The initial burst of energy disappeared. And the project either died completely or dragged on half finished because you'd already received the emotional payoff without doing any of the work. This is not about being secretive for the sake of mystery. This is about protecting your psychological energy. When you keep your plans to yourself, the only way to get that satisfaction is to actually accomplish something. You can't get validation from announcements, so you have to get it from execution. This creates a pressure that drives you forward instead of draining you before you even start. The people who actually build things operate in silence. They don't need to tell you what they're working on because they're too focused on the work itself. They're not looking for cheerleaders or accountability partners or people to validate their vision. They have a clear picture in their own mind, and they're obsessed with making it real. The world finds out about their work when it's finished, not when it's just an idea. You need to understand that most people don't actually care about your plans. They'll nod politely when you tell them. They might even say that's great or good for you, but the moment you walk away, they forget about it completely. They have their own problems and their own dreams. Your announcement is just noise in their day. So why are you giving away your precious mental energy for something that doesn't even register in their long-term memory? There's also a darker side to sharing too early. Some people will actively discourage you, not because they're evil, but because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. It reminds them of their own unlived potential. So they'll plant seeds of doubt. They'll ask questions designed to make you second-guess yourself. They'll tell you about someone who tried that and failed. And if you're not mentally strong, those seeds will grow into reasons to quit. Silence protects you from that interference. When you keep your goals private, you don't give anyone the opportunity to poison them. You don't give the doubters access to your vision. You don't give the jealous a chance to sabotage you with concern disguised as care. You work in a bubble where the only voice that matters is your own internal drive. Start paying attention to how much you talk versus how much you do. Track it for a week. Notice how often you bring up your goals in conversation. Notice how often you post about your progress before there's actually anything substantial to show. You'll probably be shocked at how much energy you're wasting on performance instead of production. Make a new rule for yourself. No announcements until there are results worth sharing. And even then, let others do the announcing. Let your work show up before you do. Let people discover what you've built rather than telling them what you're building. This shift will feel uncomfortable at first because you're used to getting validation from potential. But that discomfort is a sign that you're breaking an addiction to approval. The power you've been leaking through your mouth is the same power you need to finish what you start. Every word you don't say is energy you can redirect into action. Every plan you keep to yourself is a plan that has a better chance of becoming real. Stop talking. Start building. Let the results speak so loudly that your mouth doesn't need to say anything at all. You'll be tempted to share when you hit small milestones. You'll want to post about the first week of consistency or the initial breakthrough. Don't. Keep going. Stack the wins in private until the stack is so high that it can't be ignored. That's when you let people see. Not when you're in the middle of the struggle, but when you've already proven to yourself that you can finish. The silence is not about hiding. It's about focusing. It's about respecting your own process enough to protect it from outside influence. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need permission or applause to keep moving. You are learning to be internally motivated. You are learning to validate yourself through action instead of words. This is a foundation of every lasting achievement. Close your mouth. Open your hands. Get to work. Let the world wonder what you're up to. And when they finally see what you've built, they won't need you to explain it. The results will speak for themselves. Chapter 2. Build in the dark. Reveal in the light. The best work is done when no one is watching. When you're alone with your craft and there's no audience to perform for, you can be brutally honest about what's working and what isn't. You can fail privately and learn from it without the weight of public embarrassment. You can experiment and iterate and throw away bad ideas without having to defend them to people who don't understand the process. Most people are terrified of this kind of isolation. They need constant feedback and validation to know if they're on the right track. But that need for external input is exactly what's keeping them average. Because real innovation doesn't come from consensus. It comes from someone who is willing to trust their own vision long enough to see it through, even when no one else believed in it yet. Think about every major breakthrough in history. It didn't happen on a stage with a crowd cheering. It happened in a lab or a studio or a garage where someone spent countless hours working on something that most people thought was impossible or pointless. They built in the dark. They refined in the dark. They failed and adjusted in the dark. And only when the work was undeniable did they bring it into the light. You need to embrace this pattern. You need to fall in love with the private hours where no one knows what you're doing. This is where your best thinking happens. This is where you develop the skills that will eventually set you apart. This is where you build a foundation that will hold up the visible success that everyone will eventually see. When you work in the dark, you're also protected from the premature judgment that kills most good ideas. Every great concept looks ridiculous in its early stages. It's messy. It's incomplete. It doesn't make sense to anyone who isn't inside your head. If you expose it too early, people will tell you it won't work. They'll point out all the flaws. They'll compare it to things that already exist and find it lacking. And if you're not careful, their perspective will become your perspective. But when you keep your work hidden until it's ready, you give yourself the space to make mistakes without an audience. You give yourself permission to be bad at something while you're learning to be good at it. This is crucial because most people quit during the awkward phase when they're not good enough to be proud of the work yet. They quit because they're embarrassed. But you can't be embarrassed if no one is watching. There's also a strategic advantage to surprise. When you've been silent and then you show up with something real, it has impact. It catches people off guard. They didn't see it coming because you weren't telegraphing your moves. This creates a moment of genuine impression rather than the slow drip of updates that people have learned to ignore. You go from invisible to undeniable in one move. Consider the psychological weight of working on something that only you know about. It's heavy in the best way. You carry the secret mission that gives your daily routine a sense of purpose that other people can't see. You're not living for external validation. You're living for the satisfaction of knowing you're building something real. This creates a depth of character that shallow people will never understand. The dark is also where you develop your unique voice. When you're not trying to please an audience or fit into a trend, you can create from a place of authenticity. You can ask yourself what you actually want to make instead of what you think people want to see. This distinction is everything. The work that comes from trying to please others is forgettable. The work that comes from your true vision is the work that lasts. You need to be ruthless about protecting your creative darkness. Don't let people guilt you into sharing progress. Don't let the algorithm pressure you into constant updates. Don't let friends make you feel like you're being secretive or antisocial. You're not. You're being professional. You're being serious about your craft. You're doing what every master has done before you. Set boundaries around your work time and your workspace. Make it clear to the people in your life that when you're in that space, you're unavailable. Not because you're being rude, but because you're being focused. The people who respect your process will understand. The people who weren't going to support you anyway. Track your progress privately. Keep a journal or a log that only you see. Document the small wins and the failures. This creates a record of your journey that will be valuable when you look back on it. But keep it to yourself. It's for you, not for content. It's for clarity, not for clout. When you finally decide to reveal what you've been working on, do it with confidence. You put in the hours. You've tested it. You've refined it. You know it's good because you've proven it to yourself first. This confidence is not arrogance. It's earned certainty. And people can feel the difference. The reveal should feel like a gift, not a plea for attention. You're not asking people to like it or validate it. You're showing them something you're proud of and letting them experience it. If they love it, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter because you already know it's good. You build it in the dark where the only opinion that mattered was your own. Make a commitment to build your next project entirely in private. Don't post about it. Don't talk about it at dinner parties. Don't drop hints on social media. Just work. And when it's finished, when it's actually ready to be seen, then you can share it. But not a moment before. Protect your darkness. It's where your light is being formed. Chapter 3. Let your work become your introduction. Stop introducing yourself with words and start introducing yourself with evidence. No one cares about your resume or your story or your intentions. They care about what you can deliver. They care about the results you produced and the value you can provide. Everything else is just noise that desperate people use when they don't have anything real to show. You need to reach a point in your life where your work arrives before you do, where people already know who you are because they've seen what you created, where your reputation is built on a foundation of consistent excellence instead of clever marketing or loud self-promotion. This is the only kind of credibility that lasts. This is the only kind of respect that means anything. Think about the people you truly admire. You probably didn't hear about them because they were constantly talking about themselves. You heard about them because their work was so good that other people couldn't stop talking about it. That's the goal. That's what you're aiming for. To create something so undeniable that it does the speaking for you. Right now, you're probably trying too hard to be seen. You're trying to position yourself as an expert or a leader before you've actually done the work to earn that position. You're using language and branding and social media tactics to create an image that's bigger than your actual substance. And maybe it's working in the short term. Maybe people are paying attention. But it's not sustainable because it's built on air. The moment someone digs deeper and realizes you're all presentation and no depth, they're gone. And worse, they'll tell others. Your reputation becomes that person who talks a lot but doesn't deliver. And that reputation is almost impossible to recover from. You become known as someone who performs potential instead of proving it. You have to flip this dynamic. You have to become obsessed with substance over style. You have to care more about being good than looking good. This means you spend your time getting better at your craft instead of getting better at promoting yourself. It means you invest in skills instead of appearances. It means you shut up and work until there's something worth showing. There's a concept in philosophy called let your actions speak. It means you don't need to defend yourself or explain yourself if your behavior demonstrates your character. If you say you're reliable and then you show up on time and deliver quality work, the words weren't even necessary. The actions prove the point. But if you say you're reliable and then you're late and sloppy, your words become meaningless. Apply this to your entire life. Don't tell people you're disciplined. Show them by having a body that reflects discipline. Don't tell people you're smart. Show them by producing insights that make them think differently. Don't tell people you're successful. Show them by living a life that demonstrates success. The evidence always speaks louder than the claim. This also applies to your expertise. If you want to be seen as an expert in something, don't announce it. Prove it. Share knowledge that actually helps people. Solve problems that others can't solve. Create work that demonstrates mastery. When you do this consistently, people will start calling you an expert without you ever having to claim the title yourself. The beauty of this approach is that it filters out the right people. When your work is your introduction, the people who show up are the people who value substance. They're not there for the show. They're there for the results. This creates relationships and opportunities that are based on mutual respect instead of manipulation or hype. You also avoid the trap of overpromising. When you let your work speak first, people's expectations are set by what you've actually delivered, not by what you said you can deliver. This means you're more likely to exceed expectations because you're not trying to live up to inflated claims. You're just consistently producing quality work. Start building a body of work that can stand on its own. This might be a portfolio, a track record, a collection of projects, or a series of wins that are documented and verifiable. Make sure this body of work is accessible. Make sure people can find it and evaluate it without you having to explain it. Let it do the talking. When someone asks what you do, keep your answer short and then redirect to your work. Don't launch into a long story about your journey or your vision. Say, I build X or I help people with Y, and then show them something you created. Let them form their own opinion based on the evidence instead of your narrative. This requires patience because building a substantial body of work takes time. But this is the point. The time it takes to build something real is the same time that filters out everyone who's just performing. The performers give up when the likes and comments dry up. But you keep going because you're not doing it for the applause. You're doing it for the mastery. Commit to this path. Commit to being introduced by your results instead of your words. Commit to letting your work carry the weight of your credibility. This is how you build a reputation that lasts decades instead of days. This is how you become someone that people seek out instead of someone who has to chase attention. Stop talking about what you can do. Start doing it. And let the world discover you through the undeniable evidence of your excellence. Chapter 4. Silence forces you to get better. When you can't talk your way into opportunities, you have to earn your way in. And earning your way in requires you to be better than the people who are relying on charm and connections. This is the hidden gift of silence. It removes your shortcuts. It takes away your ability to negotiate or explain or convince. All you have left is your skill. And that forces you to sharpen that skill until it's undeniable. Most people are coasting on their ability to talk. They can pitch. They can network. They can position themselves in a way that makes them seem more valuable than they are. And for a while, this works. But it only works until someone calls their bluff. Until someone asks them to actually deliver. And that's when the gap between their words and their abilities becomes painfully obvious. You can't afford to have that gap. If you're going to operate in silence, your work has to be good enough to speak for itself. This means you need to be obsessed with improvement. You need to be constantly studying, practicing, refining, and testing. You need to become someone who is actually skilled, not just good at appearing skilled. Think about the discomfort of not being able to explain yourself. If your work isn't good, you can't talk your way out of it. You can't give context or share your intentions or blame circumstances. The work either stands or it doesn't. This is terrifying for most people because it means they're fully exposed. But this terror is what drives excellence. When you know that your work is the only thing that will be judged, you become meticulous. You pay attention to details that other people skip. You go through extra rounds of revision that most people would consider overkill. You hold yourself to a standard that feels unreasonable. And this is exactly what separates great work from average work. The great work comes from people who couldn't hide behind explanations. There's also a feedback loop that happens when you work in silence. You put something out into the world, and you see how people react to it without any framing from you. You see if it actually resonates or if it falls flat. This gives you pure data about the quality of your work. You're not getting sympathy responses or polite encouragement. You're getting real reactions to the thing itself. This feedback loop is brutal but invaluable. It shows you exactly where you need to improve. It reveals the gaps in your skill that you've been papering over with personality or presentation. And it forces you to get better, because the only way to get a better response next time is to create better work. There's no other variable to adjust. Most people avoid this kind of honest feedback because it hurts their ego. They'd rather believe they're good and just misunderstood or underappreciated. But you can't afford that delusion. You need to know exactly where you stand. You need to see your work through the cold lens of objective quality. And silence gives you that clarity. You also develop a different relationship with your craft when you're working in silence. You're not creating for applause. You're creating for the satisfaction of doing it right. You start to notice the difference between something that's good enough to fool people and something that's actually good, and you become unwilling to settle for the former. This internal standard becomes your compass. You stop asking, will people like this? And start asking, is this my best work? The first question makes you a performer. The second question makes you a craftsman. And craftsmen build things that last while performers are forgotten the moment the show ends. Silence also removes the temptation to cut corners. When you're talking about your work, you can describe the ideal version and people will believe you're working toward it. But when you're silent, the only version that matters is the one you actually produce. You can't describe your way out of mediocrity. You have to work your way out of it. Make a list of the skills you need to master for your goals. Be honest about where you actually are on the spectrum from beginner to expert. Don't inflate your abilities. Don't compare yourself to people who are worse than you to feel better. Compare yourself to the best in the world and let that gap motivate you. That gap is the space where your silence needs to be filled with work. Set up systems for deliberate practice. This means focused, uncomfortable practice on the specific areas where you're weakest. Not just doing what you're already good at. Not just going through the motions, but actually pushing yourself to improve the things that are holding you back. This is how you turn silence into skill. Document your skill progression privately. Take videos of yourself. Keep samples of your work. Track your metrics. Look back at where you were 6 months ago and see the improvement. This will remind you that silence and focused effort actually work. It will give you confidence that's based on real growth instead of fake confidence that's based on other people's validation. When you finally share your work after a period of silent improvement, people will notice. They'll see the jump in quality. They'll wonder how you got so much better. And you won't need to explain. The work will be the explanation. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of the effort that most people aren't willing to put in. Stop talking about getting better. Stop posting about your growth journey. Just get better. Let the improvement speak for itself. Let your results prove that the time you spent in silence was time well spent. This is how you build a level of skill that becomes your competitive advantage in a world full of people who are better at promoting than producing. Chapter 5. Protect your vision from polluters. Not everyone deserves to know what you're building. Some people will take your vision and trample it with their limited perspective. They'll project their own fears onto your dreams. They'll tell you all the reasons it won't work, all the ways you'll fail, all the evidence from their own mediocre life that proves you should stay small. And if you let them, they'll kill your momentum before you even start. This is why silence is not just a productivity strategy. It's a protection strategy. When you keep your plans to yourself, you're building a fortress around your vision. You're making sure that only the strongest version of your idea survives, not the version that's been watered down by committee or compromised by the doubts of people who aren't even in the game. Think about who you've been sharing your dreams with. Are they people who have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish? Are they people who think bigger than you do? Are they people who have a track record of supporting ambitious projects? Or are they just the people who happen to be in your life, who have their own agenda, their own insecurities, their own need to keep you at their level? Most people share their goals with the wrong people. They tell their family who loves them but doesn't understand them. They tell their friends who are comfortable with them being exactly as they are. They tell co-workers who see them as competition. And they wonder why they feel discouraged and confused after these conversations. It's because they handed their precious vision to people who had no business holding it. You need to be strategic about who gets access to your inner world. This isn't about being paranoid or antisocial. This is about recognizing that your vision is valuable and fragile in its early stages. It needs protection. It needs the right environment to grow. And most people's opinions are not that environment. There's a concept called dream killers. These are people who, consciously or unconsciously, will try to talk you out of your ambitions. They're not evil. They're just operating from their own limited reality. They can't see what you see. They don't have the risk tolerance you have. They don't understand why you give up safety for possibility. So they disguise their fear as concern, and they try to pull you back to where they are. You have to be able to identify these people and cut off their access to your plans. When they ask what you're working on, be vague. When they press for details, change the subject. When they offer unsolicited advice, smile and nod, and then completely ignore it. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to protect your vision from their contamination. There are also people who will steal your ideas, not in a dramatic, intellectual property way, but in a subtle energy way. They'll hear your vision and subtly start working on something similar. They'll take the clarity you developed through months of thinking and slap their name on it. They'll ride your momentum because they don't have any of their own. Silence protects you from these parasites. When you do need feedback or input, seek it from people who are ahead of you, people who have already done what you're trying to do, people who have skin in the game and results to show for it. These people can give you real guidance because they've walked the path. But even then, be selective. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Your vision is ultimately yours to execute. Understand that the moment you share a goal, you open it up to the opinions of the masses. And the masses are average by definition. They think in terms of what's normal and safe and proven. But every great achievement started with someone who was willing to pursue something that looked crazy to everyone else. If you let the masses vote on your vision, they'll vote for you to stay exactly where you are. Create an inner circle of people who understand the value of silence and focus. People who don't need constant updates to believe in you. People who respect the process of building in private. These are your real allies, not the people who need you to perform your progress for them, but the people who trust that you're working even when they can't see it. Practice the art of misdirection when necessary. If people pressure you for information, give them a decoy project. Tell them about something small and safe, while you protect the thing that actually matters. This might feel deceptive, but it's not. It's boundaries. It's protecting what's sacred from what's profane. You also need to protect your vision from yourself, from the part of you that wants validation so badly that you're willing to compromise your standards to get it. The part that wants to share too early because you're excited. The part that wants to talk about it because you're scared to actually do it. Recognize these impulses and shut them down. Write your vision down in detail. Keep it somewhere private where only you can see it. Read it when you need to reconnect with why you're doing this. Use it as your North Star when the work gets hard and you're tempted to quit or dilute or seek approval. This document is your contract with yourself. No one else needs to see it. When your work finally speaks and people discover what you've been building, they'll ask why you were so quiet about it. They'll want to know why you didn't tell them. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just smile and let the results be your answer. Because the truth is, you were protecting something precious. You were giving your vision the space it needed to become real. And that's exactly what you should have been doing all along. Chapter 6. Results kill all arguments. You can spend the rest of your life trying to convince people you're capable, Or you can spend that time becoming so capable that the argument becomes irrelevant. Most people choose the first path because it's easier. They get caught up in defending their potential, explaining their vision, justifying their choices. But none of that matters. The only thing that ends a conversation is results. When you have results, you don't need to argue. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The results do all of that for you. They stand as undeniable evidence that shuts down every critic and every doubter. This is the power of letting your work speak. It removes you from the exhausting cycle of needing to be understood. Think about how much energy you've wasted trying to get people to believe in you. The conversations where you tried to paint a picture of your future. The arguments where you tried to defend your decisions. The moments where you felt like you had to prove your worth. All of that energy could have gone into actually building something. All of that time could have been spent creating the results that would have made those conversations unnecessary. The truth is, people don't believe in potential. They believe in proof. You can tell them you're going to build a business, get in shape, write a book, or change your life. They'll nod politely. They might even say they believe in you. But they don't. Not really. They're waiting to see if you actually do it. And they have every right to wait because most people talk and never execute. But when you show up with a business that's making money, the body that's transformed, the book that's published, the life that's completely different, suddenly you don't need their belief. They see it. It's real. It's tangible. And it forces them to acknowledge that you actually did what you said you would do. That's respect. That's credibility. That's what you're working toward. Results also protect you from bad faith arguments. There are people who will try to poke holes in your plans no matter what you say. They'll find problems. They'll point out risks. They'll tell you about someone who tried and failed. But when you have results, these arguments dissolve. They can't argue with what's already done. They can't debate the evidence that's right in front of them. This is why you have to stop engaging with people who want to debate your potential. Don't defend your vision to them. Don't try to convince them. Just smile, nod, and go back to work. Save your energy for execution. Let them see your results when you're ready to reveal them. That's when the conversation shifts from will you to how did you, and that shift changes everything. You also need to redefine what you consider a result. It's not just the final outcome. It's the consistent progress that leads to that outcome. Results are the daily habits you've maintained, the skills you developed, the milestones you've hit. These are all evidence that you're serious. But they're evidence you keep to yourself until the final picture is complete. Track your results obsessively. Keep a record of every small win, every improvement, every benchmark you pass. This serves two purposes. First, it keeps you motivated because you can see your progress even when others can't. Second, it gives you data to reference when you finally do share your work. You're not just showing the end result. You have receipts that prove the journey. There's a reason why the most successful people are often quiet until their success is undeniable. They understand that the early stages of any venture are fragile. That's when you're most vulnerable to criticism and doubt. So they protect that stage by working in silence. They build momentum in private. And by the time the world sees what they're doing, the results are too strong to dismiss. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices. You don't owe anyone insight into your process. You don't owe anyone a preview of what you're building. What you owe is the best possible execution of your vision. That's it. And when you deliver that, when the results speak, all the questions and doubts and arguments become background noise that doesn't matter anymore. Make a commitment to stop defending yourself. The next time someone questions your path or doubts your ability, don't engage. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just say, "We'll see," and get back to work. Let that phrase become your mantra. We'll see. Because you're not interested in convincing them. You're interested in proving it. This approach also filters your relationships. The people who need to see results before they support you probably aren't your real supporters. Real supporters believe in you before the evidence is overwhelming. They trust your character and your work ethic. But even for those people, your best gift is delivering results. Not because you need to prove anything to them, but because you want to honor their faith with evidence that it was justified. When you finally arrive with results that can't be argued with Be gracious. Don't use that moment to say, "I told you so," to the doubters. That's petty. Just let the results speak. Let them wonder. Let them see that you were serious all along. That's a much more powerful statement than any words you could say. The world is full of talkers. Be a doer. Be the person who shows up with receipts when everyone else is still making promises. Be the one who ends arguments not with words, but with undeniable evidence. This is how you earn real respect. This is how you build a reputation that lasts. Results kill all arguments. So stop arguing and start producing. Chapter 7. Silence builds mystique and respect. There's power in being the person that no one can quite figure out. When you're quiet about your moves, when you're selective about what you share, when you operate with a level of privacy that's uncommon in this oversharing world, people become curious. They become intrigued. They start to respect you in a way that they don't respect the people who broadcast everything. This is not about being mysterious for the sake of image. This is about understanding that scarcity creates value. When your thoughts, your time, and your attention are not freely available to everyone, they become more valuable. When you're not constantly updating the world on your every move, the moves you do make carry more weight. You become someone whose opinion matters because it's not given lightly. Think about the people you respect most. Chances are they're not the loudest people in the room. They're not constantly seeking attention or validation. They're the ones who speak when they have something worth saying. They're the ones who move with intention and purpose. They're the ones who seem to have a depth that shallow people lack. That depth comes from internal focus, not external performance. When you practice silence and focus, you naturally develop this depth. You're spending time with your own thoughts. You're working on things that matter to you. You're building skills and knowledge that don't fit into a social media post. This creates layers to your personality that people can sense but can't fully access. And that inaccessibility is magnetic. People are drawn to what they can't fully know. It's human nature. When someone is an open book, when they share every thought and every detail of their life, they become predictable. There's nothing left to discover. But when someone holds something back, when there's a sense that there's more beneath the surface, people want to know more. They want to understand. They want access. This mystique gives you leverage in every area of life. In business, it makes people more interested in working with you. In relationships, it makes people value your time and attention. In your career, it makes people see you as someone who has substance beyond what's immediately visible. You're not performing depth. You have actual depth because you've been cultivating it in silence. There's also a protective element to this mystique. When people don't know all your moves, they can't interfere with them. They can't copy you. They can't sabotage you. They can't predict what you're going to do next. This gives you a strategic advantage that openly transparent people don't have. You're operating from a position of information asymmetry, where you know more about yourself than others do. Silence also forces people to judge you by your results rather than your process. They see the outcome without understanding all the struggles and failures that led to it. This makes your success look more impressive than it might feel to you. You know how hard it was. You know how many times you almost quit. But they just see that you did it. And that gap between their perception and your reality works in your favor. You need to understand that respect is not given people who are always available and always explaining themselves. Respect is given to people who have boundaries, who have standards, who don't feel the need to justify their choices to everyone who asks. When you operate in silence, you're demonstrating that you respect yourself enough to protect your time, your energy, and your vision from casual curiosity. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant with people who matter. It means you're selective about what you share and with whom. Your close circle gets access. The people who have earned your trust get to see behind the curtain. But the general public, the casual acquaintances, the social media audience, they get results. They get the finished product. They get the version of you that you choose to present, not the raw, unfiltered version that you're still working on. Practice the art of strategic silence in conversations. When someone asks what you're working on, give them a simple one-sentence answer and then turn the conversation to them. When someone probes for more detail, smile and say, "I'll share more when there's something concrete to show." When someone tries to give you unsolicited advice, thank them politely and change the subject. Protect your mystique by being friendly but private. You'll notice that this approach makes your words carry more weight. When you speak less, people listen more carefully when you do speak. When you're selective about what you do share is taken more seriously. You become someone whose opinion is sought rather than someone whose opinion is just part of the noise. This also prevents burnout from constant self-presentation. We are always updating people on your life. You're essentially living for an audience. That's exhausting. It creates a pressure to always have something interesting to report. But when you're silent and focused, you're living for yourself. You're working on your own timeline. You're measuring progress by your own standards. This creates a sense of freedom that the performers never experience. Build your mystique deliberately. Don't answer every question. Don't explain every decision. Don't share every thought. Let there be space between what people see and what's really happening. Let them wonder. Let them be curious. Let them respect the fact that you're not trying to be an open book, because open books get read once and put on a shelf. Books with mystery get read again and again as people try to understand what they're missing. When you finally reveal what you've been working on in silence, the mystique pays dividends. People are more impressed because they didn't see it coming. They're more interested because you've been quiet about it. They're more respectful because you clearly don't need their validation. You built something real while they were busy performing their potential. And that difference is obvious to everyone watching. Chapter 8. The Discipline of Delayed Gratification. Every time you resist the urge to share your progress, you're exercising one of the most valuable muscles you can develop: delayed gratification. You're training yourself to postpone the immediate reward of validation for the much larger reward of actual achievement. This is the difference between people who start strong and fizzle out and people who start quietly and finish powerfully. The modern world has conditioned you to expect instant rewards. You post a picture and immediately check for likes. You share an idea and wait for comments. You announce a goal and collect encouragement. Each of these moments gives you a small hit of dopamine that feels good, but doesn't move you forward. In fact, it moves you backward because your brain thinks it's already received the reward it was seeking. There's research in psychology about this phenomenon. When you tell people about your goals, your brain experiences something called premature completion. It registers a social acknowledgement as progress toward the goal, even though you haven't actually done anything. This satisfaction kills your motivation. The drive that should have been fueling your work gets dissipated in conversation about your work. But when you keep your goals silent and focus on execution, you're preserving that drive. You're keeping the tension alive. You're maintaining the hunger that pushes you to actually complete what you started. The reward you're working toward is the accomplishment itself, not the announcement of your intention to accomplish it. This shift in reward timing is what separates amateurs from professionals. Think about the last time you worked on something in complete silence and then revealed it when it was finished. Remember that feeling? The pride wasn't just in the work itself, but in the fact that you had the discipline to complete it without seeking validation along the way. That pride is addictive in the best way. It makes you want to do it again. It builds a pattern of completion that becomes part of your identity. This discipline also teaches you patience. In a world that moves at internet speed, patience is a superpower. While everyone else is chasing quick wins and instant virality, you're playing a longer game. You're building something that will last because you gave it the time it needed to be great. You're not rushing to market with a half-finished product just to get attention. You're waiting until it's ready. The people who master delayed gratification in one area of life tend to master in all areas. If you can resist sharing your goals, you can probably also resist bad food, impulse purchases, and short-term thinking. You're building a general capacity for self-control that pays dividends everywhere. You're becoming someone who can see the bigger picture and act accordingly. You need to start viewing every urge to share as a test of whether you're working for internal validation or external validation, a test of whether you can sit with discomfort without needing to relieve it immediately, a test of whether you trust your own judgment more than the crowd's approval. Every time you pass this test, you get stronger. Every time you fail it, You reinforce the pattern of dependence. Create artificial delays between completion and sharing. Even when a project is finished, sit with it for a day or a week before you show anyone. Use that time to make sure it's actually as good as you think it is. Use it to detach your ego from the work, so you can evaluate it objectively. Use it to practice being satisfied with your own assessment before seeking external feedback. This delay also protects you from the disappointment of underwhelming responses. When you share something immediately after finishing it, you're emotionally invested in how people react. If the response is muted, it can crush you. But when you had time to separate yourself from the work, you're less vulnerable. You've already experienced the satisfaction of completion. The external response is just bonus, not the primary source of your fulfillment. Understand that the market rewards patience more than urgency in most cases. The things that are built quickly usually look cheap. The things that are rushed show their seams. But the things that are given time to develop, to be refined, to be perfected, those are the things that command premium prices and lasting attention. Your silence during the building phase is an investment in the quality of the final product. Train yourself to find satisfaction in the work itself, not in the recognition of the work. This is the mark of a true craftsman. They love the process. They love the learning. They love the incremental improvements that no one else even notices. This internal satisfaction sustains them through the long periods where external recognition is absent. And when external recognition finally comes, it's a nice addition to an already fulfilling experience, not the only reason they kept going. Make a rule: no sharing until you completed at least 3 significant milestones. This forces you to build momentum in private. It forces you to prove to yourself that you can sustain effort without an audience. It forces you to develop the discipline that will carry you through much bigger challenges later. The first milestone might feel impossible to keep quiet about. By the third, you'll understand why silence is power. The discipline of delayed gratification is uncomfortable at first. Your brain will protest. It will give you 100 reasons why you should share now. It will tell you that you're missing opportunities or that people need to know what you're doing. Don't listen. That's just the addiction to instant validation talking. Push through it. The discomfort is the price you pay for developing real self-control. When you finally do share after a long period of silent work, you'll notice something interesting. The satisfaction is deeper. The pride is more substantial. You're not just proud of what you made. You're proud of the discipline you demonstrated in the making. You're proud that you didn't need constant cheerleading. You're proud that you trusted yourself enough to work without an audience. That multi-layered pride is what builds unshakable confidence. Delayed gratification in your work life also improves your personal life. The discipline transfers. You become better at saving money instead of spending it impulsively. You become better at investing in relationships instead of seeking attention. You become better at making choices that benefit your future self instead of your present comfort. It's all the same muscle, just applied in different areas. Start today. Pick something you're working on and commit to not sharing anything about it until it's completely finished. Not a progress update, not a teaser, not a hint. Complete silence until complete execution. Notice how different it feels. Notice how much more focus you have. Notice how much faster you progress when you're not stopping to report to an audience. This is the power of delayed gratification in action. Chapter 9. When you do speak, make it count. After all this talk about silence, you need to understand that there's a time to speak. But when that time comes, you need to make sure your words carry the weight of all the work you've been doing in silence. This is not about breaking your silence casually. This is about speaking with such authority and evidence that no one can question what you're saying. The power of your words is directly proportional to the depth of your silence. If you've been quiet while everyone else was talking, and then you finally speak, people pay attention. They lean in. They listen carefully because they know that if you're breaking your silence, it must be important. This is a credibility you've been building through restraint. When you speak after a period of focused work, you're not speaking from theory or hope or intention. You're speaking from experience. You're sharing insights that you earn through actual execution. You're offering value that comes from real struggle and real victory. This kind of contribution is rare and valuable. Most people are sharing their thoughts before they've tested them. You're sharing your results after you've proven them. This is also when you can share your process, but only after you've demonstrated the outcome. People don't want to hear about your methods when they don't know if your methods work. But after they've seen your results, they're hungry to know how you got there. That's when your words have maximum impact. That's when you can actually help people instead of just adding to the noise. Be strategic about what you share even in these moments. You don't need to give away everything. You don't need to reveal every detail of your process. Share enough to provide value and demonstrate expertise, but keep some things proprietary. Keep some lessons for yourself. Keep some advantages that you earn through your silence. Generosity is good, but so is maintaining your competitive edge. When you do speak, speak with confidence, not arrogance, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've done the work. Don't hedge. Don't apologize. Don't diminish your achievements with false modesty. You earn the right to own what you've accomplished. People respect clarity and conviction more than they respect false humility. Also, let others speak for you when possible. The most powerful validation doesn't come from your own mouth. It comes from other people who have experienced your work and felt compelled to share it. When someone else tells your story or recommends your service or praises your product, it carries 10 times the weight of you saying the same thing. Work toward creating experiences that inspire people to speak on your behalf. This is why the silent focus strategy is so effective. You're building something so good that other people become your marketing department. You're creating value so undeniable that word spreads organically. You're not pushing your message. You're pulling people in with the quality of your work. And that pull is infinitely more effective than any push. When you speak, also listen. The people who have been focused and silent are often the best listeners because they're not just waiting for their turn to talk. They're actually processing what's being said. They're learning. They're synthesizing. This makes their eventual contribution more thoughtful and more valuable. Listening is an extension of the silent strategy. It's gathering intelligence while others are performing. There's a concept in communication called earned authority. You can't claim authority. You can only earn it through demonstrated competence. And you demonstrate competence through results, not words. So when you've been silent and focused and you built something real, you've earned authority. And when you speak from that earned authority, people don't just hear you. They believe you. Practice being concise when you do speak. People who have been silent and focused tend to develop the ability to communicate complex ideas simply. They've spent so much time thinking deeply that they can distill their insights into clear, actionable points. This clarity is rare and valuable. Most people overcomplicate things because they're trying to sound smart. You can keep things simple because you are smart. The work proved it. Also, timing matters. There's a right time to share your work and a wrong time. The wrong time is when you're still in the messy middle, when you're not sure if it's working, when you're vulnerable to criticism that might derail you. The right time is when you have momentum, when you have results, when you have the mental and emotional strength to handle any response. Wait for the right time. It's worth it. When you speak about your work, frame it in a way that serves others. Don't make it about you seeking validation. Make it about you providing value. Here's what I learned that might help you. Here's a resource I built that solves this problem. Here's an insight from my process that you can apply. This framing shifts the energy from self-promotion to contribution, and people respond much better to contribution. Be prepared for different reactions when you finally break your silence. Some people will be supportive. Some will be jealous. Some will try to minimize what you've done. Some will claim they knew you could do it all along. Don't let any of these reactions affect you. You didn't do the work for them. You did it for yourself. Their response is about them, not about you. The goal is to reach a point where your reputation speaks before you do, where people already know what you're capable of because they've seen the evidence, where your name alone carries weight because it's associated with quality and results. This reputation is built to the pattern of silence, focused work, and strategic sharing. It's built over years, not weeks, but it lasts because it's earned. Make a plan for how you'll share your next completed project. Think about the message. Think about the medium. Think about the timing. Put as much thought into the reveal as you put into the work itself. Not because the reveal is more important, but because you want to honor the work with a presentation that does it justice. When you speak, make it count. Make it memorable. Make it valuable. Make it so good that people remember it and share it and come back for more. This is how you convert your silent focus into visible impact. This is how you turn your private discipline into public influence. But never forget that the power of your words comes from the depth of your silence. Keep that ratio intact. More silence, more focus, less talk, better results. The quiet path to undeniable success. You've just been given a blueprint that most people will never follow. Not because they don't understand it, but because they don't have the discipline to execute it. They'll watch this video, feel inspired for a moment, and then go right back to announcing their plans and seeking validation for work they haven't done. Don't be like them. You've invested 40 minutes in understanding this path. Now invest the next 40 days in walking it. Silence is not the absence of something. It's the presence of focus. It's the decision to protect your energy from the endless demands of an attention-hungry world. It's the choice to build in the dark so you can reveal in the light. It's the understanding that your words are only as powerful as the work that backs them up. And right now, you have the opportunity to start fresh, to close your mouth and open your hands, to stop performing and start producing. Everything I've shown you works. The reason I know it works is because every person who has built something lasting has followed this pattern, whether they called it this or not. They worked when no one was watching. They stayed silent when everyone else was talking. They let their results do the speaking. And when the world finally noticed, it was too late to ignore them. The hardest part is the beginning. Right now, you're probably excited about this idea. You're thinking about all the things you're going to build in silence. But tomorrow, when you wake up and that excitement has faded, you're going to feel the urge to share. You're going to want to tell someone about your new approach. Don't. That urge is the exact addiction you're trying to break. Feel it and let it pass. Then get to work. Here's what I want you to do in the next 24 hours. Pick one goal that you've been talking about but not executing on. Make a private commitment to yourself that you will not mention this goal to anyone for the next 30 days. Write it down somewhere only you can see it. Then start working on it today. Not tomorrow. Not Monday. Today. Take one action, no matter how small, that moves you toward that goal. And then take another action tomorrow. And the day after that, at the end of those 30 days, look at what you've accomplished in silence. Compare it to what you typically accomplish when you're talking about your goals. You'll see the difference. You'll feel the difference. And that difference will convince you more than anything I could say in this video. Now, if this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift in how you think about work and focus and success, then I need you to do something important. Subscribe to this channel, but not for the reason you think. Don't subscribe because you like the video. Subscribe because you're making a decision about the kind of person you want to become. This channel is not about entertainment. It's not about motivation that fades in 5 minutes. Every video here is designed to challenge you, to show you a different way of thinking, to give you frameworks that actually work if you're willing to apply them. When you hit that subscribe button, you're telling yourself that you're serious about growth. You're joining a community of people who value substance over flash, results over talk, discipline over motivation. Most people won't subscribe. They'll watch, feel momentarily inspired, and then disappear back into their old patterns. They'll keep announcing their plans and wondering why nothing changes. You have a choice right now. You can be like most people, or you could be different. You can choose the path of silent focus. And subscribing to this channel is your first act of commitment to that path. When you subscribe, turn on notifications, not so you can consume more content, but so you can get reminded when you're slipping back into old patterns. Each video is a reset. A chance to recommit to principles that separate the people who build real things from the people who just talk about building things. And here's the truth that makes this decision easy. You're already investing time in content. You're already scrolling. You're already watching. The only question is whether you're consuming content that makes you weaker or content that makes you stronger. This channel makes you stronger. It doesn't always feel good. It doesn't coddle you, but it gives you the truth. And if you're serious about your life, the truth is more valuable than comfort. So subscribe. Join the people who are choosing silence over noise, who are choosing focus over distraction, who are choosing results over announcements. Let this be the channel that you look back on in a year and realize it changed your trajectory. Let this be the place that reminded you what you're capable of when you stop talking and start executing. I'll see you in the next video. And when I do, I don't want to hear about what you're planning to do. I want to see evidence of what you've already done. I want to see that you took this message seriously, that you went silent, that you focused, that you let your results speak. You are capable of extraordinary things, but you'll never prove it to yourself or anyone else by talking about it. You'll only prove it by building in silence and revealing in power. Stop explaining your vision. Start executing it. Stop seeking validation. Start creating value. Stop talking. Start building. The world doesn't need more people with big plans and loud mouths. It needs more people with quiet discipline and undeniable results. Be that person, starting right now, starting with silence. Let your next chapter be written in the dark and revealed in the light. Now close this video. Put down your phone and go do the work that only you can do. Your results are waiting for you in the silence. Go find them.